Hello guys, welcome to Phoenix What If. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto was adopted by the Uchiha clan and was forced to marry a harem of survivors? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. The Crimson Fox, an Uchiha's Tale Chapter 1. Blood is thicker than water. Rain pelted the streets of Konoha, washing away the last traces of the Nine Tails attack. 4 days had passed since the foe, Earth Hokage, sacrificed himself to seal the beast within a newborn child. 4 days since that child became an orphan. In the dim light of the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi's weathered face looked even older as he studied the couple standing before his desk. Fugaku Uchiha stood rigid, his face an impassive mask that betrayed nothing. Beside him, his wife Makoto's expression was softer, though tension lined her shoulders. "You understand what you're asking?" Hiruzen's voice carried the weight of his newly resumed position as third Hokage. Fugaku nodded once, sharply. "The Uchiha clan will take responsibility for the Jinchuriki. His name is Naruto," Makoto said quietly. "Naruto Uzumaki." The third Hokage's eyes narrowed. "Your clan has been restless since the attack. Many still wisp that an Uchiha could have controlled the Nine Tails. All the more reason to entrust the child to us," Fugaku countered. "We can ensure the beast remains contained." And the gesture would show Konoha that the Uchiha remain loyal. Hiruzen knew the political calculations behind the request. The Uchiha sought to regain standing after suspicions had fallen on them. Taking in the Nine Tails Jinchuriki would give them both power and a show of dedication to the village. But he also saw Makoto's eyes, which held something beyond politics. She had been friends with Kushina Uzumaki, the boy's mother. "You would raise him as your own?" Hiruzen asked. "Not as a weapon, but as family. He would be an Uchiha in all but blood," Fugaku stated. Makoto stepped forward. "I promised Kushina I would watch over her son if anything happened to her. Please, Lord Third." The old man's fingers steepled before him. This wasn't ideal. He had hoped to keep Naruto's parentage and burden secret, to protect him from Minato's enemies. But the village was already buzzing with rumors about the child who contained the Nine Tails. Perhaps the proud Uchiha compound, with its strong walls and watchful eyes, was the safest place for him after all. "Very well," Hiruzen said finally. "But his heritage as an Uzumaki remains acknowledged. And I will be watching." Fugaku, the clan head, bowed stiffly. "Understood, Lord Hokage." 6-year-old Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha crouched behind a garden stone, his breath coming in excited little puffs. His blonde hair and whiskered cheeks were smudged with dirt from an afternoon of training and play. "I can see you, idiot." Sasuke's voice came from behind him. Naruto whirled around, his face scrunching into a pout. "No fair. You're using the Sharingan." "I'm not." 7-year-old Sasuke sniffed, crossing his arms. "You're just terrible at hiding." "I found you both," came a gentle voice as Itachi appeared, seeming to materialize from nowhere. At 13, he was already a Jonin. His skills far beyond what either younger boy could comprehend. Naruto pointed an accusatory finger. "Itachi, Sasuke's cheating." "I am not," Sasuke protested. Itachi's lips curved into a rare smile as he poked Naruto's forehead with 2 fingers, the same gesture he often used with Sasuke. "Shinobi use every advantage, Naruto." But Sasuke wasn't using the Sharingan. "He hasn't awakened it yet." Naruto's blue eyes widened. "Then how'd he find me so fast?" "Your hair is bright yellow," Sasuke said with exasperation. "It sticks out like a sunflower in a coal pile." Itachi rested a hand on each boy's shoulder. "That's enough training for today. Mother has dinner waiting." As they walked toward the main house, Naruto lagged slightly behind the brothers. Though he'd lived with the Uchiha family for nearly all his conscious life, there were still moments when he felt the difference between himself and them. His bright hair and blue eyes stood in stark contrast to their dark features. And then there was the matter of the Nine Tails, a secret that wasn't really secret at all. He'd learned about his tenant 2 years ago, when he'd overheard Fugaku discussing him with the clan elders. The revelation explained so much. The whispers that followed him even within the clan compound, the wariness in the eyes of some of the adults, the strange surge of chakra he sometimes felt when angry or afraid. Naruto. Itachi had stopped and was looking back at him. Is something wrong? Naruto quickly plastered on a grin. Just thinking about what jutsu I'm going to master next. I'm going to be stronger than both of you someday. Believe it. Sasuke scoffed, but there was no real malice in it. Despite their rivalry, the boys had grown up as brothers in all the ways that mattered. Itachi's eyes, however, saw too much. He always seemed to look straight through Naruto's forced smiles. Instead of calling him out, though, he simply said, I believe you will. The Uchiha district thrummed with activity as clan members moved through the streets. Unlike the rest of Konoha, where buildings varied in style and color, the Uchiha compound maintained a cohesive aesthetic, traditional buildings, with paper lanterns displaying the clan's fan symbol glowing softly in the evening light. Naruto followed Itachi and Sasuke into their home, where delicious smells wafted from the kitchen. Makoto looked up from her cooking, her gentle face breaking into a warm smile at the sight of the boys. There you are. Wash up. Dinner's almost ready. Where's father? Sasuke asked, glancing toward the empty head of the table. Meeting with the police force leaders, Makoto answered. A shadow passed over her features but vanished quickly. He'll be late tonight. Naruto knew those meetings had grown more frequent lately. Though nobody told him directly, he could sense the tension that had been building within the clan for months. Whispers about the village leadership, about respect denied to the Uchiha, about change that needed to come. After washing, the boys settled at the table while Makoto brought steaming dishes of food. Naruto's mouth watered at the sight of his favorite miso soup with extra pork. I made something special for you, Makoto said, placing a bowl in front of him. You've been working so hard on your training. Naruto beamed up at her. Thanks, Mom. The words slipped out naturally. Makoto had never asked Naruto to call her mother, but over the years, it had simply felt right. She ruffled his blonde hair affectionately before sitting down. Itachi, she said as they began to eat, how are things with Anbu? Itachi's face remained impassive, as expected. Meaning he can't tell us anything, Sasuke muttered. It's classified stuff, Naruto added importantly. Super secret ninja business. Itachi said nothing, but Naruto noticed how he barely touched his food, how the shadows under his eyes seemed to deepen with each passing week. When do we start at the academy? Naruto asked, changing the subject. Sasuke keeps bragging that he'll be the top student. Because I will be, Sasuke said with absolute certainty. You'll both start after the summer, Makoto said. And I expect you both to represent the Uchiha clan well. Naruto straightened. I'll be the best ninja ever. I'll make the clan proud. Something softened in Makoto's expression. Naruto, you don't. She was interrupted by the front door sliding open. Fugaku entered, his stern face looking even more severe than usual. The atmosphere in the room immediately shifted. Welcome home, father, the boys said in unison. Sasuke with reverence, Naruto with slightly forced brightness. Fugaku nodded curtly before taking his place at the head of the table. After Makoto served him, he ate in silence for several minutes before speaking. Itachi, I need to speak with you after dinner. Yes, father, Itachi replied. Fugaku's eyes moved to Sasuke and Naruto. How was your training today? I mastered the shuriken technique you showed me. Sasuke said eagerly. I hit 8 out of 10 targets. I hit 6. Naruto chimed in. Fugaku nodded to Sasuke. Good. Keep practicing until you hit all 10 consistently. His eyes lingered on Naruto briefly but offered no praise or criticism before returning to his meal. Naruto's shoulders slumped slightly. Despite years in the household, he had never quite won Fugaku's approval. The clan leader was not cruel to him, but neither did he show the same interest he displayed toward his biological sons, particularly Itachi. Under the table, Naruto felt a gentle kick. He looked up to find Sasuke giving him a small, encouraging nod. The silent support from his brother made the sting of Fugaku's indifference fade just a little. After dinner, while Itachi sappered with their father into his study, Sasuke and Naruto sprawled on the floor of their shared bedroom. Academy textbooks lay open before them. Fugaku had insisted they begin studying early. This is boring, Naruto groaned, flopping onto his back. Why do we need to know the history of the First Shinobi War? I want to learn cool jutsu. Because those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, Sasuke recited. Sounding exactly like their tutor. You sound like an old man, Naruto teased. Sasuke rolled his eyes. And you sound like a baby. Do not. Do too. Their bickering was interrupted by a soft knock. Makoto entered, carrying a tray with 2 cups of tea and rice cookies. A study break, she said, setting the tray down. Naruto immediately grabbed a cookie. Thanks, Mom. Makoto sat on the edge of Sasuke's bed. For a moment, she simply watched them with a pensive expression. Naruto, she said finally. You know you're just as much a part of this family as Sasuke and Itachi, don't you? The question caught him off guard. Sure. She reached out to smooth his unruly blonde hair. Your mother was my dear friend. She was brave and kind and had a spirit that could never be broken. A sad smile touched her lips. You remind me of her more each day. You knew my real mom? Naruto asked, suddenly alert. The subject of his biological parents rarely came up. Kushina Uzumaki was her name. She had hair the color of autumn leaves and a temper to match. Makoto chuckled softly at some memory. But the greatest love I've ever seen. She would have been so proud of you. Naruto absorbed these precious scraps of information about the woman who had given birth to him. And, my dad. Makoto hesitated, her eyes flicking briefly toward the door. He was a fine shinobi too. Perhaps when you're older, we can talk more about them. Disappointment washed over Naruto, but he nodded. Adults always said, when you're older, about the things they didn't want to explain. The important thing, Makoto continued, is that you understand you have a place here. No matter what anyone else in the clan might say or think, you are my son too. There was an urgency in her words that Naruto didn't fully understand, as if she needed him to believe this now, tonight. I know, he said, giving her his brightest smile. And I'm going to be the strongest Uchiha ever, even without the Sharingan. Makoto pulled him into a hug, holding him just a little too tightly before releasing him. Now, back to your studies. Both of you. After she left, Sasuke eyed Naruto curiously. What do you think that was about? Naruto shrugged, though unease settled in his stomach. Grown-up stuff, probably. Through the floor, they could hear the muffled sound of raised voices from Fugaku's study. The academy proved to be both better and worse than Naruto had expected. Better, because he finally interacted with children outside the Uchiha clan. Worse, because many of those children had been warned by their parents about the demon boy. Ignore them, Sasuke muttered as whispers followed them across the playground. Easier said than done. Naruto's bright personality and determination to prove himself often translated into classroom disruptions and practical jokes that didn't endear him to the teachers. His status as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki combined with his adoption into he increasingly isolated Uchiha clan left him doubly marked as an outsider. But he found his own way. While Sasuke excelled at everything with effortless precision, Naruto worked twice as hard for half the recognition. He compensated for his academic struggles with sheer perseverance and a creative approach to problem-solving that sometimes left their instructors speechless, not always in a good way. The brothers maintained their rivalry, but it became apparent that Sasuke's natural talent with Uchiha techniques put him steps ahead. Naruto, on the other hand, displayed unusual levels of chakra and stamina that outstripped not just Sasuke but most of their class. It's the Nine Tails, explained Makoto one evening after a particularly frustrating training session where Naruto couldn't master a basic fire technique. Your chakra is different because of what's inside you. That's not a weakness, Naruto. It's a different kind of strength. With Makoto's guidance, Naruto began to develop his own style, less precise than the traditional Uchiha techniques but powerful in its own right. She taught him to channel his massive chakra reserves through modified hand signs, creating versions of Uchiha jutsu that worked with his unique energy. The first time he successfully executed his adaptation of the fireball jutsu, a technique that emerged not as a controlled sphere but as a swirling vortex of flame with hints of red chakra, Makoto's eyes had widened in something like wonder. The crimson spiral, she named it, ruffling his hair. Uniquely yours. Even Fugaku had raised an eyebrow, something almost like approval flashing across his stern features before disappearing. Those moments made the struggle worthwhile. 12-year-old Naruto stood in the small garden behind the main house, attempting to focus his chakra. He'd graduated from the academy last month. Not at the top of the class like Sasuke, but solidly in the middle, which he considered a victory given where he'd started. The morning air was cool against his skin as he formed the hand signs Makoto had taught him, a variation on the standard sequence that accommodated his unusual chakra flow. Focus, he muttered to himself. Concentrate on the energy, not the outcome. He felt the now familiar stirring deep within, the Nine Tails chakra, wild and potent, mixing with his own. Over the years, he'd learned to access small amounts of this power. Though it remained unpredictable, red-tinged chakra began to swirl around his hands. He directed it outward, shaping it into Naruto. The chakra dissipated immediately as Naruto turned to find Itachi standing at the garden's edge. At 18, Itachi was already an Anbu captain, his skills legendary throughout Konoha. But the prodigy looked uncharacteristically tense, dark circles prominent beneath his eyes. Itachi, you're back from your mission. Naruto grinned, always happy to see his oldest brother despite how distant he'd become in recent years. Walk with me, Itachi said, his voice oddly flat. As they moved through the compound, Naruto noticed the stairs following them, or more specifically, following Itachi. Tension had been mounting within the clan for months, with Fugaku leading closed-door meetings that grew longer and more heated each week. Even Sasuke had been shut out from these discussions. They reached a small bridge over a decorative stream at the compound's edge. Far from listening ears. Is everything okay? Naruto asked, unnerved by Itachi's silence. Do you know why father adopted you? Itachi asked abruptly. The question stung. Beck. Ah's mom was friends with my birth mother. That was Makoto's reason, Itachi clarified. Fugaku had different motivations. Naruto swallowed hard. He'd suspected as much for years, but hearing it stated so bluntly hurt nonetheless. The Nine Tails, he said quietly. Itachi nodded. The clan believed controlling the Jinchuriki would give them leverage against the village leadership, which has marginalized the Uchiha for decades. Why are you telling me this now? Itachi's gaze fixed on the flowing water below. Because things are about to change. The clan is planning something dangerous, and you need to be prepared. Cold fear settled in Naruto's stomach. What do you mean? What are they planning? A coup, Itachi said, the word falling between them like a stone. Fugaku intends to overthrow the Hokage and place the Uchiha in control of Konoha. Naruto stared at his brother in disbelief. They can't. That would mean civil war. Yes. Itachi's voice remained eerily calm. Many would die on both sides. We have to stop them. Naruto grabbed Itachi's arm. We have to tell the Hokage. The Hokage already knows. Itachi gently removed Naruto's hand. As does his council. Understanding dawned slowly, horribly. You've been spying on the clan. Itachi neither confirmed nor denied this. Instead, he said, I need you to promise me something, Naruto. What? Protect Sasuke. And protect the innocent members of the clan who know nothing of these plans. A chill ran down Naruto's spine. Itachi, what are you going to do? Itachi finally turned to look at him directly, his Sharingan activated, spinning slowly. What I must, to prevent a war. Wait, Naruto grabbed for him again, but Itachi was already stepping away. There has to be another way. We could talk to father, convince him to, I've tried. Itachi said, a rare crack in his composure revealing the pain beneath. For years, I've tried. But hate runs too deep on both sides now. Then I'll try. I'll use the Nine Tails power if I have to. Something like fondness crossed Itachi's face. You've become a true brother to Sasuke. For that alone, I'm grateful you came into our family. His expression hardened. But this burden is mine to bear. Itachi, tonight. Itachi interrupted. No matter what happens, stay with Sasuke. Keep him safe. Can you promise me that? Throat tight with dread, Naruto nodded. I promise. But Itachi, please, thank you. Itachi touched two fingers to Naruto's forehead, the familiar gesture now laden with finality. You may hate me after tonight, but remember that every thing I do is to protect what matters most. Before Naruto could respond, Itachi vanished in a swirl of leaves, leaving him alone with a terrible weight of knowledge and a promise he didn't fully understand. The day passed in a haze of anxiety. Naruto went through the motions of training with his genin team, his mind elsewhere. He should tell someone. The Hokage, maybe, or Makoto, but Itachi's warning echoed in his thoughts. Whatever was coming seemed inevitable. By sunset, he returned to the compound to find it unusually quiet. The regular patrol of Uchiha police was absent from their posts. Many of the clan's men had gathered for what Fugaku had described as an important strategy meeting in the central hall. Naruto found Sasuke in the training field, practicing shuriken throws with single-minded focus. "Hey," Naruto called. "It's getting late. We should head home." Sasuke caught his last shuriken midair, frowning. "Father said he wanted me at the meeting tonight, but Itachi told me to stay away." Frustration etched his features. "I'm tired of being treated like a child." Naruto's heart pounded. Maybe we should listen to Itachi this time. "Why?" Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "Did he say something to you?" Before Naruto could answer, a woman's scream pierced the evening air, followed by a thunderous crash from the direction of the main meeting hall. Sasuke dropped his shuriken. "Father!" "Sasuke! Wait!" Naruto lunged to grab him, but Sasuke was already running toward the sound. Cursing, Naruto sprinted after him. They rounded the corner to a scene from a nightmare. Bodies lay in the street, Uchiha bodies. Clan members Naruto had known all his life. Blood pooled on the cobblestones, black in the fading light. Sasuke froze, his face draining of color. "No. No." Naruto grabbed his arm. "We need to go. Now. Father. Mother." Sasuke tried to pull away. "I promised Itachi I'd keep you safe," Naruto hissed, tightening his grip. "Please, Sasuke." A shadow fell across them. They looked up to see a figure standing on a nearby rooftop, silhouetted against the moon. Itachi, his Anbu armor splattered with blood, his Sharingan glowing red in the darkness. "Itachi!" Sasuke screamed. "What have you done?" Itachi's face remained impassive. "What was necessary? You killed them." Sasuke's voice broke. "Our family. Our clan. Not all," Itachi said, his eyes shifting to Naruto. "I've spared those uninvolved in the coup. Most of the women, the children, those who sought peace. But the leadership could not be allowed to continue their plans." "Father," Sasuke whispered. Itachi's silence was answer enough. With a cry of anguish, Sasuke broke free from Naruto's grip and charged toward his brother, kunai drawn. Itachi moved with blinding speed, knocking the weapon from Asuke's hand and pinning him against a wall. "Hate me if you must, little brother," Itachi said, his voice eerily calm. "Grow stronger with that hate. But remember that I've given you a chance to rebuild the Uchiha as they should be, as protectors, not conquerors. I'll kill you." Sasuke choked out, tears streaming down his face. Naruto felt chakra building within him, red and wild with his own rage and grief. "Let him go, Itachi." Itachi glanced at him, noting the faint red aura beginning to surround the blonde boy. "Control it, Naruto. The village will need your strength in the days to come." With a flick of his wrist, Itachi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and caught Sasuke in a genjutsu. Sasuke's body went rigid before collapsing. Naruto lunged forward, catching him before he hit the ground. "What did you do to him?" Naruto demanded, cradling his unconscious brother. "I showed him the truth," Itachi said. "Not all of it. He's not ready. But enough to understand that this was no senseless slaughter. You could have found another way." Naruto's voice cracked with emotion. "You didn't have to kill them." Something like regret flickered across Itachi's face. "Perhaps. But the decision is made. And I must bear its consequences." He stepped closer, looking down at Naruto with an intensity that made the boy shiver. "Listen carefully. Danzo Shimura and the village elders ordered this. They will tell a different story, that I went mad, that I acted alone. Let them. For now, it protects what remains of the clan. Why are you telling me this? Because someday, the truth will matter." Itachi's gaze softened marginally. "Take care of Sasuke. Take care of our mother and the others I've spared. They will need you, Naruto." Before Naruto could respond, Itachi vanished into the night, leaving him alone with Sasuke's unconscious form and the heavy knowledge of what had happened, and why. In the distance, alarms began to sound as the village discovered the massacre. Dawn broke over a changed Konoha. Anbu teams had secured the Uchiha district overnight, and the official story spread quickly. Itachi Uchiha, prodigy and Anbu captain, had slaughtered his clan in a fit of madness, sparing only his younger brother and some women and children who had hidden or been away from the compound. No mention was made of a planned coup. No explanation was given for why Itachi had spared who he did. In the Hokage's office, Naruto sat beside Sasuke, who hadn't spoken a word since regaining consciousness. Across from them, the third Hokage looked decades older than he had just days before. "I'm deeply sorry for your loss," Hiruzen said, his voice heavy. "This tragedy, it's beyond comprehension." Naruto watched the old man carefully, searching for any sign that would confirm what Itachi had told him, that this had been sanctioned by Konoha's leadership. But the Hokage's grief appeared genuine. Makoto sat on Sasuke's other side, her face pale but composed. She had been visiting a relative in the outer district when the massacre occurred, a coincidence that Naruto now suspected had been Itachi's doing. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Hiruzen sighed. "The survivors of the Uchiha clan will remain under village protection while we hunt for Itachi. Your homes are being secured as we speak. And the clan's position within Konoha?" Makoto pressed. An uncomfortable silence followed her question. Finally, an elderly man stepped forward from the shadows of the room, Danzo Shimura, leader of the foundation and advisor to the Hokage. "The Uchiha police force has been decimated," Danzo said, his visible eye cold. "Its functions will be absorbed by Anbu for the time being." Naruto stared at the man, remembering Itachi's words. This was the one who had ordered the killings. He felt the nine tails stirring within him, responding to his anger. "The clan's future is uncertain," Danzo continued. "With so few remaining, and most of them women and children." He paused, glancing at Naruto. "Measures must be taken to ensure the Sharingan bloodline continues under proper village guidance." "What measures?" Makoto asked sharply. The third Hokage cleared his throat. Quote, "We can discuss this at a more appropriate time, after you've had a chance to grieve." "No," Sasuke spoke suddenly, his voice raw. "Tell us now." Hiruzen exchanged a glance with Danzo before answering. "The Uchiha have always been one of Konoha's founding clans. We cannot allow the bloodline to die out, nor can we risk it falling into enemy hands. Some form of arranged marriages may be necessary to ensure the clan's survival." "Arranged marriages," Makoto repeated incredulously. "A traditional practice for preserving bloodlines," Danzo interjected. "Particularly valuable ones." Naruto felt sick. They were talking about the survivors, mostly young women and girls, as if they were breeding stock. "That's wrong," he said, unable to contain himself. "You can't force people to marry." Danzo's eye fixed on him. "You, of all people, should understand duty to the village, Jinchuriki. Your very existence serves Konoha's needs." "That's enough, Danzo," the Hokage said sharply. To the others, he added more gently. "No decisions will be made immediately. For now, focus on healing. We will provide whatever support you need." As they were dismissed, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that events were being set in motion beyond his control. He glanced at Sasuke, whose face had once again become an expressionless mask, and at Makoto, whose calm demeanor couldn't hide the calculation in her eyes. The Uchiha clan had changed forever. And somehow, Naruto knew he would be central to whatever came next. 3 months after the massacre, life had settled into a grim new routine. The surviving Uchiha, 43 in total, mostly women and children under 15, occupied a smaller section of the original compound. Anbu guards maintained a constant presence, ostensibly for protection but serving as a reminder of their surveillance. Naruto and Sasuke continued their duties as genin, though neither found much joy in the routine missions. Sasuke had become withdrawn, speaking little and training obsessively. His sole stated purpose was to become strong enough to kill Itachi. Naruto divided his time between missions, training, and helping the clan adjust. Though not an Uchiha by blood, he had become an essential part of their diminished community. His sunny determination provided a counterbalance to the grief that permeated the compound. On a rare day off, Naruto sat on the porch of Main House, now Makoto's residence as acting clan head, watching younger Uchiha children practice basic jutsu in the garden. Despite everything, New routines had formed. Life continued. The sliding door opened behind him, and Makoto emerged with a tray of tea. She set it down between them and took a seat, her movements graceful despite the weight of responsibility she now carried. "They're improving," she said, nodding toward the children. "Yeah." Naruto accepted the cup she offered. "Kenta almost has the fireball technique down." They sipped in companionable silence for a moment before Makoto spoke again. "The Hokage has summoned us for a council meeting tomorrow. Myself, you, and Sasuke." Naruto tensed. "About what?" "I believe they're ready to present their plan for the clan's future." Her voice remained neutral, but Naruto had learned to read the subtle signs of her anxiety, the slight crease between her brows, the too careful way she held her cup. "The arranged marriages," he guessed. Makoto nodded. "Among other things. It's not right," Naruto said, echoing his words from months earlier. "They're treating the clan like a resource rather than people," Makoto finished. "Yes, but we have few allies now, Naruto. The other clans keep their distance, fearing association with us might bring suspicion upon themselves." Naruto stared into his tea. "What will you do?" "Navigate carefully. Find the path that preserves our dignity while ensuring our survival." She looked at him directly. "I wanted to prepare you. Your position is unique. Because of the 9 tails. That, and your adoption into the clan. You were legally an Uchiha but without the bloodline. It makes you both valuable and dangerous in their eyes." A cold feeling settled in Naruto's stomach. "What does that mean for me?" Makoto's expression softened. "I don't know exactly what they'll propose, but be ready for anything. Remember who you are. Naruto, not just the 9 tails Jinchuriki or an adopted Uchiha. But your parents' son. You still won't tell me who my father was," Naruto said quietly. "I can't. Not yet." Genuine regret colored her voice. "But I promise you'll know when the time is right." The sound of approaching footsteps interrupted them. Sasuke appeared, his clothes dusty from training. "The Anbu delivered this," he said, handing a sealed scroll to his mother. "From the Hokage's office." Makoto opened it, her eyes scanning the contents quickly. Her face betrayed nothing, but Naruto sensed her tension. "What is it?" he asked. "The official summons," she said, resealing the scroll. "And a preliminary outline of their proposal." "Tell us," Sasuke demanded. Makoto hesitated, then relented. "They propose to rebuild the clan through a series of arranged marriages. Beginning when the eligible clan members reach 16. The partners will be carefully selected for compatibility with the Sharingan bloodline." "That's still years away for most of us," Naruto pointed out. "Only a handful of the survivors were near that age." "Yes," Makoto agreed. "But there's more. They've requested that a demonstration of commitment be made immediately." "What kind of demonstration?" Sasuke asked, his voice tight. Makoto's eyes met Naruto's. "They want you, as the adopted son of the previous clan head and the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails, to marry 3 of the eligible Uchiha women who have already come of age. To show the clan's dedication to Konoha and to begin the process of rebuilding." Naruto stared at her in shock. "Me? But I'm only 12. The marriages would be formalized now but consummated when you turn 16, Makoto explained, her discomfort evident. "It's unprecedented, but they argue these are unprecedented circumstances." Sasuke's face darkened. "They want to control the 9 tails through Uchiha women. Just like they've always feared the clan would do." "Yes," Makoto said grimly. "By making you the foundation of the new Uchiha clan, Naruto. They bind both you and the 9 tails to Konoha through multiple ties." Naruto felt dizzy. "I can't. They can't make me." "They can," Makoto said softly. "And they will, unless we find an alternative quickly." Sasuke paced the porch, anger radiating from him. "This is their punishment. They couldn't control our clan, so now they'll control what's left of it through Naruto." Naruto thought of the surviving Uchiha women, proud, grieving, trying to rebuild their lives after unimaginable loss. Now they faced being forced into marriages for political purposes. "Who?" he asked hoarsely. "Who are they planning for me to marry?" Makoto consulted the scroll again. "Izumi Uchiha, who is 17. She was close to Itachi, before." She hesitated. "Naori Uchiha, the daughter of one of your father's cousins. She's 19 and a jonin. And Michi Uchiha, who was 18 and was training to join the police force intelligence division. Naruto knew them all. Izumi with her gentle smile, who had sometimes helped him with academy homework. Naori, fierce and proud, one of the most skilled kunoichi in the clan. Michi, quiet and observant, whose analytical mind was renowned even outside the clan. This is wrong, he whispered. Yes, Makoto agreed, but our options are limited. If we refuse outright, the council may impose even harsher measures. Sasuke stopped his pacing. So we agree, but on our terms. Makoto raised an eyebrow at her son. What do you mean? We negotiate, Sasuke said, his tactical mind engaging despite his anger. Make demands in exchange for compliance. Protection, autonomy, resources. Naruto looked between them, these two Uchiha who had become his family. Don't I get a say in this? Makoto's expression softened as she turned to him. Of course you do, Naruto. No one will force you. If you refuse, we'll find another way, whatever the consequences. The weight of responsibility settled on Naruto's shoulders. These people had taken him in, made him family. When the rest of the village saw only the monster inside him. Now they faced extinction, their proud history reduced to political bargaining. I need to think, he said, standing abruptly. And I need to talk to them. The women. If this affects them even more than it affects me, they deserve to have a voice too. Makoto nodded approvingly. A wise approach. I'll arrange it. As Naruto walked away, his mind in turmoil, he heard Sasuke ask his mother in a low voice, do you think he'll agree? I think, Makoto replied, that Naruto has his mother's heart and a strength all his own. He'll do what's right, whatever that may be. Naruto hoped she was right, because at that moment, he had no idea what the right choice was. The meeting took place in the small temple at the edge of the Uchiha compound. Once used for clan ceremonies and rituals, it now stood as one of the few buildings untouched by the tragedy that had befallen them. Naruto arrived first, his stomach in knots. He'd spent the night tossing and turning, trying to imagine a way out of this situation that didn't end badly for everyone involved. The door slid open, and 3 young women entered. They moved with the characteristic grace of Uchiha kunoichi, their backs straight and heads held high despite the circumstances that had brought them here. Izumi, her long dark hair tied back, offered Naruto a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. Beside her, Naori's expression remained neutral, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed her discomfort. Michi, the most reserved of the 3, studied Naruto with calculating eyes. Thank you for coming, Naruto said, his voice sounding younger than he would have liked. Did we have a choice? Naori asked, an edge to her voice. Yes, Naruto said firmly. And you still do. That's why I wanted to talk to you before tomorrow's council meeting. I won't agree to anything unless you're willing. The 3 women exchanged glances. That's not what we expected, Michi admitted, taking a seat on one of the cushions arranged in a circle. The others followed suit, with Naruto completing the circle. What did you expect? He asked. That you'd be as excited as any 12-year-old boy would be at the prospect of 3 wives, Naori said bluntly. Naruto felt his face heat. That's not. I wouldn't. She's teasing you, Naruto, Izumi said gently. Though not entirely. He took a deep breath. This isn't about that. It's about our futures. All of our futures. The council is using us to control what's left of the Uchiha clan, and I think that's wrong. Of course it's wrong, Naori said. But what choice do we have? Our clan has fallen from one of Konoha's most powerful to a group of widows and orphans under suspicion. We need protection. There has to be another way, Naruto insisted. Michi leaned forward. We've discussed this among ourselves, Naruto. We knew this was coming. The council has been hinting at it for weeks. And, Naruto asked, surprised they'd already talked about it. And we've decided to accept, Izumi said quietly. Naruto stared at them in disbelief. But, why? Practicality, Michi answered. The Uchiha need a new beginning. One that distances us from the past while preserving our bloodline. You offer that connection to the village through the 9 tails, yet loyalty to the clan through your adoption. It's politics, Naori added, her voice hard. Marriage has always been political for shinobi clans. At least with you, we know where we stand. But you barely know me, Naruto protested. I'm just a kid. You're E9 Tails Jinchuriki and an adopted son of Fugaku Uchiha, Michi pointed out. There's nothing. Just about you. And we do know you, Izumi added softly. You've lived among us for years. You're kind, determined, and loyal to a fault. There are worse qualities in a husband, even if you are young now. Naruto felt overwhelmed. He'd expected resistance, anger, not this practical acceptance. Don't you want to marry for love? He asked. A shadow passed over Izumi's face. I did love someone once. He killed my parents 3 months ago. Naruto winced. Izumi and Itachi had been close, everyone in the clan had expected them to marry eventually. I'm sorry. The point is, Naori interjected, love is a luxury few shinobi can afford, especially now. This arrangement gives us purpose and protection. And what about you? Michi asked, fixing Naruto with her penetrating gaze. How do you feel about this proposal? Naruto looked down at his hands. Confused. Angry that they're using us like this. Scared that I'll let you all down. He looked up, meeting each of their eyes in turn. But also, determined not to let that happen. If we do this, it has to be on our terms, not theirs. A glimmer of approval showed in Naori's eyes. Now you're thinking like an Uchiha. What terms? Michi asked, her tactical mind engaging. I don't know yet, Naruto admitted. But Sasuke suggested we negotiate. Demand things in exchange for our compliance. Protection, resources, autonomy. The return of our police force, Naori suggested immediately. Access to our clan's scrolls and techniques, which Anbu confiscated after the massacre. Michi added. And no interference in how we raise our children, Izumi said quietly. Naruto nodded, taking mental notes. What else? For the next hour, they discussed possibilities. Building a list of demands that would make their compliance worthwhile. As they talked, Naruto felt something shift between them, not romance or even friendship yet, but a tentative alliance, a shared purpose. There's one more thing, Naruto said as their discussion wound down. If we do this, it can't just be on paper. We have to be a real family, or at least try to be. And have a household full of people who resent each other or me. The women considered this. That's fair, Izumi said finally. We've all lost too much to waste what life we have left on bitterness. Agreed, Michi nodded, though it will take time. Naori studied Naruto for a long moment before speaking. You surprise me, Uzumaki. I expected a boy, but you're thinking like a clan head. I'm not. You will be, she interrupted. If this arrangement goes forward, you'll become the functional head of what's left of the Uchiha, regardless of what title they give you. The responsibility of that statement hit Naruto like a physical blow. He'd never aspired to lead a clan. His dreams had always centered on becoming Hokage, on earning the village's recognition. Makoto is the clan head, he said. For now, Michi agreed. But this arrangement is designed to transition power to you as you come of age. As the meeting concluded, each woman approached Naruto individually. Izumi squeezed his hand gently, offering a smile that seemed slightly more genuine than before. Michi gave him a respectful nod and a promise to draft their demands in formal language for the council. Naori was the last to leave. She paused at the door, looking back at him with an unreadable expression. You know why they chose us specifically, don't you? She asked. Naruto shook his head. Izumi because of her connection to Itachi. They think it neutralizes a potential threat. Me for my combat skills. Any children we have would likely be powerful. And Michi for her intelligence and political acumen. Naori's dark eyes held his. They've calculated everything, Naruto. Remember that tomorrow. With that, she was gone, leaving Naruto alone in the temple with the weight of tomorrow's decision pressing down on him. The council chamber fell silent as Naruto entered alongside Makoto and Sasuke. The long table was occupied by Konoha's leadership, the third Hokage at its head, flanked by his advisors, Homura, Kaharu, and Danzo. Representatives from other major clans were present as observers but would have no vote in today's proceedings. The Uchiha took their designated seats opposite the council. Behind Hem sat the three women who were central to today's discussion, their faces composed and dignified despite being the subject of such clinical deliberation. Thank you for joining us, the third Hokage began, his voice formal. "We are here to discuss the future of the Uchiha clan and its place within Konoha." Danzo leaned forward, his visible eye fixed on Naruto. "We have presented our proposal to Lady Makoto. Have you had time to consider it?" "We have," Makoto replied evenly. "And we have prepared a response." She nodded to Michi, who rose and distributed scrolls to each council member. Naruto noted the surprise that flickered across their faces. They hadn't expected a counterproposal. "What is this?" Koharu demanded, scanning the document. "Our terms," Makoto said. "If you wish the marriages to proceed as you've outlined, these conditions must be met." Danzo's expression darkened. "You are not in a position to make demands." "With respect, Lord Danzo," Michi spoke up, her voice clear and steady. "Marriage alliances have traditionally been negotiations between equal parties. We are simply following established protocol." The third Hokage raised a hand to silence Danzo's retort. "Let us review these terms." He adjusted his reading glasses and studied the scroll. Reinstatement of the Uchiha police force. Return of clan archives. Guaranteed seats on village councils. These are significant requests. As is asking 3 young women to marry a 12-year-old boy for political purposes, Naori said, her tone biting. Naruto watched the council members' faces as they read through the demands. Some showed outrage, others calculation. The clan representatives observing looked impressed by the Uchiha's boldness. "Many of these requests are reasonable," the Hokage said carefully. "Others will require discussion." "We are prepared to discuss," Makoto responded. "But certain points are non-negotiable." "Such as?" Homura asked. "The marriages will be in name only until all parties are of appropriate age," Makoto stated firmly. "The clan's remaining assets will remain under Uchiha control, and any children born of these unions will be raised according to Uchiha tradition, without interference." Tension filled the room as the council members exchanged glances. Naruto could almost see the calculations happening behind their eyes. How much were they willing to concede to secure control over the 9 tails and the Sharingan in one strategic move? "The boy has not spoken," Danzo observed suddenly, his eyes shifting to Naruto. "Does he accept this arrangement?" All eyes turned to Naruto. He felt a momentary panic, then a calm certainty. He'd spent the night thinking about his parents, his birth parents who'd sacrificed everything to protect him, and the adoptive parents who'd given him a home and identity. About Itachi, who had destroyed and saved the clan in one terrible night. About the women behind him, proud and determined despite having their choices stripped away. He stood, straightening to his full height, still boyish, but carrying himself with a dignity beyond his years. "I accept, on one condition of my own," he said, his voice stronger than he expected. "That everyone understands I'm doing this for the clan that took me in when no one else would. I'm not the 9 tails vessel being used as a bargaining chip. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, and I'm choosing to help rebuild my clan." A murmur ran through the observers. The third Hokage's eyes softened slightly, while Danzo's narrowed with calculation. "Bold words for one so young," Koharu said dismissively. "Age doesn't determine worth or wisdom," Naruto countered, remembering all the times he'd been underestimated. "The 4th Hokage trusted me to contain the 9 tails when I was just a baby. I'm asking you to trust me now to help the Uchiha clan." The mention of the 4th Hokage caused a ripple of discomfort among the council. The third Hokage's gaze lingered on Naruto with an unreadable expression before he nodded slowly. "Very well. We will review these terms and prepare a formal response." He looked at each person in the room in turn. "Let us remember that our goal is the strength and unity of Konoha. The Uchiha have always been an essential part of this village, and they will remain so." As the meeting adjourned, Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find Izumi looking at him with newfound respect. "That was well said," she told him quietly. "I meant it," Naruto replied. "We know," Michi said, joining them. "That's what made it powerful." Naori hung back, her arms crossed. But Naruto caught the slight nod she gave him, a small acknowledgement that perhaps he wasn't just a boy after all. Outside the council chambers, Sasuke fell into step beside him. "You didn't have to do this, you know." "Yes, I did," Naruto said. "Their family, your family, I protect my family." Something flickered in Sasuke's dark eyes, grief, determination, and perhaps a grudging respect. If you hurt any of them, I'll kill you myself. Naruto grinned despite the solemnity of the day. I'd expect nothing less from my brother. As they walked back toward the Uchiha compound, the reality of what had just happened began to settle over Naruto. By this time next week, he would be formally married to 3 women he barely knew, carrying the future of a clan that wasn't his by blood but had become his by choice. It wasn't the path he'd imagined for himself. But then, nothing about his life had ever been ordinary. As the sun cast long shadows across Konoha, Naruto made a sigh. NT promised to himself and to the legacy of both his families, Uzumaki and Uchiha, that he would find a way to turn this political arrangement into something that would make them all proud. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. Crimson Bonds. Morning light filtered through paper screens, casting warm patterns across the tatami floor of what had once been Fugaku Uchiha's study. Naruto sat cross-legged before a low table covered with scrolls, mission reports, and household ledgers. 3 months had passed since the council meeting that had changed everything, and he was still adjusting to the weight of responsibilities that had fallen to him. He rubbed his eyes, trying to focus on the clan finances spread before him. The Uchiha holdings remained substantial despite the massacre, but managing them required knowledge he'd never bothered to acquire before. You're up early. Naruto looked up to find Michi in the doorway, already dressed in her usual navy attire, her dark hair pulled back in a practical style. Of his 3 wives, the word still felt strange in his mind. Michi had most readily accepted her role in their unusual household, approaching it with the same analytical precision she applied to everything. Couldn't sleep, Naruto admitted. Michi entered, kneeling across from him with fluid grace. The investment proposal from the Nara clan. Yeah, I don't understand half of these terms. He pushed the scroll toward her. She scanned it quickly. It's straightforward enough. They're offering partnership in their pharmaceutical ventures in exchange for access to Uchiha land at the forest boundary. Is it a good deal? Potentially. The Nara are fair partners, and we have more land than we can utilize with our reduced numbers. She made a notation on the scroll. I'll review the details and prepare a response. Thanks. Naruto stretched, shoulders popping. I'd be lost without you handling this stuff. A small smile touched her lips. Which is precisely why the council selected me, I imagine. That was Michi, direct, practical, and honest to a fault. She hadn't wanted this marriage any more than he had, but she'd adapted to it with remarkable efficiency, carving out her role as the household's administrator and political strategist. Is anyone else up? He asked. Naori left at dawn for training. Izumi is preparing breakfast. Michi gathered the financial scrolls. You have a team meeting at 9. Right. Naruto had almost forgotten. Though his personal circumstances had changed dramatically, his duties as a genin continued. He rose to leave, but Michi's voice stopped him. Naruto, there's something you should know. Her tone made him turn back. What is it? There's been talk in the village. About us. Her dark eyes met his directly. Unsavory speculation about our arrangement. Naruto's jaw tightened. Let them talk. It doesn't bother you. Of course it does. But getting angry won't change anything. He offered a small smile. Besides, I've had people talking about me my whole life. At least this time, I'm not facing it alone. Something softened in Michi's expression. Not quite affection, but perhaps respect. She nodded once before returning to the scrolls. Naruto made his way to the kitchen, where the smell of miso soup and grilled fish greeted him. Izumi stood at the stove, her long hair tied back as she prepared the morning meal. Unlike Michi's businesslike efficiency, Izumi brought warmth to the household, maintaining the rhythms and traditions that had defined Uchiha family life before the massacre. Good morning, she said, glancing over her shoulder with a gentle smile. Hungry, starving, he admitted, taking a seat at the table. Izumi placed a bowl of rice and miso soup before him, followed by grilled fish and pickled vegetables. Eat well, you look tired. Her kindness still caught him off guard sometimes. Of the 3, Izumi had suffered the most direct loss in the massacre. She'd been close to Itachi, childhood friends, who everyone assumed would eventually marry. Yet she rarely spoke of him, channeling her grief into caring for what remained of their clan. Thanks for this, Naruto said, gesturing to the meal. You don't have to cook for me every day. You know, I don't mind. She joined him at the table with her own modest portion. It gives me purpose. They ate in companionable silence for a while. Unlike his earlier days, when he'd devoured food with little appreciation, Naruto had learned to savor the quiet moments that punctuated their unusual life. "Will you be late today?" Izumi asked. "Probably not. Just D-rank missions with the team." He made a face. "Kakashi-sensei keeps saying we're not ready for anything more challenging." He's being cautious. The village is still on edge after. She didn't finish the sentence. But she didn't need to. After the massacre. After our wedding. After everything changed. The sound of the front door sliding open interrupted them. Naori entered, her training clothes damp with sweat. A practice sword at her hip. Her sharp gaze took in the domestic scene before her. "Mission today?" she asked Naruto, pouring herself water. "Just the usual boring stuff." Naori snorted. "Better get used to it. They'll keep you on a tight leash for a while." Of the three women, Naori remained the most distant, her fierce independence chafing at their arrangement. A Jonin before the massacre. She'd been demoted to special Chunin status afterward, an insult she bore with cold fury. Where Michi accepted and Izumi adapted, Naori resisted, maintaining emotional distance from everyone, especially Naruto. "Actually," Naruto said, "I was thinking of asking Kakashi-sensei about more advanced training. Maybe combining some Uchiha techniques with my own style." Naori paused, studying him with those intense eyes. "Your chakra nature is wind, not fire. Most Uchiha techniques won't work for you. Maybe not in their original form, but I could adapt them." Naruto held her gaze, "Like I did with the Crimson Spiral." Quote, for the first time that morning, Naori showed interest rather than indifference. "You'd need a proper teacher for that." "I know." He hesitated. "I was hoping you might help. You're the best combat specialist we have now." Surprise flashed across her face before her usual mask of detachment returned. "I'll think about it." Coming from Naori, that was practically enthusiastic agreement. Izumi watched their exchange with a thoughtful expression. "That's a good idea, Naruto. Training together would benefit all of us." "How so?" Naori asked, an edge in her voice. "We need to learn to fight as a unit," Izumi said simply. "The village sees us as a single entity now, for better or worse. We should act like one." Naruto nodded, warming to the idea. Like a specialized team, each with different strengths, but working together. "That's..." Naori began dismissively, then paused, reconsidering. Not entirely foolish. From Naori, that was high praise indeed. "I'll draft a training regimen," Michi said from the doorway, where she'd been listening silently. "If we approach this systematically, we can develop a unique fighting style that capitalizes on our individual abilities." Naruto looked around at the three women, so different from each other, yet bound together by circumstance and clan. For the first time since their unusual marriage, he felt something like possibility stirring. Not romance or even friendship yet, but a foundation of mutual respect and shared purpose that might, in time, grow into something more. "Team Uzumaki Uchiha," he said with a grin. "Has a nice ring to it." Naori rolled her eyes, but Izumi smiled, and even Michi looked faintly amused. It was a start. The training field behind the Uchiha compound had once hosted clan gatherings and children's games. Now, it served as their private practice ground, away from the curious and often judgmental eyes of the village. Naruto stood in the center, facing Naori. 5 days had passed since he'd proposed they train together, and to his surprise, she had taken the idea and run with it, designing a rigorous program that left him exhausted but exhilarated. Again, she commanded, her Sharingan active. "And this time, control the chakra flow. You're wasting half your energy." Naruto wiped sweat from his brow, concentrating on the technique they were developing, a variety on of the traditional Uchiha fireball jutsu modified to work with his wind nature and the Nine Tails chakra. He formed the hand signs, feeling the familiar swirl of energy within. The challenge was directing it properly, creating a controlled burst rather than a wild explosion. "Release," he muttered, focusing on a training dummy 30 feet away. Wind chakra erupted from his hands, spiraling forward in a tight tunnel. This time, instead of immediately infusing it with the Nine Tails red chakra, he waited until the vortex had fully formed, then added just a thin thread of the fox's power. The result was spectacular. The spiraling wind ignited with crimson flames that corkscrewed toward the target with laser precision, engulfing the dummy in a controlled inferno. Better, Naori admitted, her Sharingan tracking the chakra flow. But you're still holding back. You're afraid of the fox's chakra. With good reason, Naruto countered. If I use too much, I might lose control. Naori crossed her arms. Then learn to control it. That power is part of you, whether you like it or not. It's not that simple. Nothing worth doing ever is. Her harsh expression softened fractionally. Listen, I've been watching you with my Sharingan. The Nine Tails chakra responds to your emotions. When you're confident, it flows naturally. When you're afraid, it fights you. Naruto considered this. So I need to trust it. You need to trust yourself. Naori deactivated her Sharingan, her dark eyes now focused intently on him. The clan adopted you because of that power. Now it's time you embraced it fully. Coming from Naori, this was unexpected wisdom. She'd spent most of the past months keeping her distance, speaking to him only when necessary. This was the longest conversation they'd had outside of clan business. Why are you helping me? He asked directly. She tensed. We made a deal with the council. If the Uchiha are to regain our standing, you need to be strong. That's not the whole reason. Naori looked away, her profile sharp against the afternoon sun. The night of the massacre, I was away on a mission. I returned to find my parents, my brother, most of my clan dead. The survivors looking to me as one of the few remaining Jonin. Her voice hardened. Then I was demoted, married off, and told to start rebuilding. I have too much pride to be a victim, Naruto. If this is my life now, I will make it count. Quote, the raw honesty of her answer struck him. For all their proximity these past months, they'd rarely spoken of their feelings about their situation. I never wanted this arrangement either, he admitted. But now that we're here, I want to make it work, not just for the village or the clan, but for us. All of us. Naori studied him for a long moment before a hint of respect showed in her eyes. Then get stronger, much stronger, because the peace we have now won't last. Before Naruto could ask what she meant, a flutter of wings announced a messenger hawk circling overhead. It descended toward them, landing on Naori's outstretched arm. She removed the small scroll from its leg, her expression growing serious as she read. What is it? Naruto asked. Summons from the Hokage. For all of us. She rolled the scroll closed. Immediately, the Hokage's office felt crowded with all four of them standing before the desk. The third Hokage looked grave, his pipe conspicuously absent. Beside him stood Kakashi, Naruto's team leader, his visible eye unusually serious. Thank you for coming so quickly, the Hokage began. I'm afraid we have a situation that concerns you directly. Naruto felt Izumi tense beside him. Michi's face remained impassive, while Naori stood slightly apart, her posture alert. What's happened? Naruto asked. The Hokage exchanged a glance with Kakashi before continuing. Our intelligence units have intercepted communications indicating that your household has been targeted by an outside organization. What organization? Michi asked sharply. They call themselves Akatsuki, Kakashi answered. A group of S-rank missing nin with unknown objectives. But recent intelligence suggests they're specifically interested in Jinchuriki. Ice formed in Naruto's stomach. They're after the Nine Tails. Yes, the Hokage confirmed. But that's not all. The communications also mentioned interest in the surviving Sharingan users. They want both, Naori concluded. Her voice hard. The fox and the eyes. The Hokage nodded grimly. We believe they may attempt to infiltrate Konoha soon. Given the unique concentration of both targets in your household, we're implementing additional security measures. What kind of measures? Izumi asked. Anbu surveillance on your compound, Kakashi said. Restricted missions for all of you. And, he hesitated. And what? Naruto prompted. The Hokage sighed. The council has suggested relocating you to a more secure facility under direct Anbu supervision. You mean locking us up? Naori said flatly. For your protection, the Hokage countered. And the villages, Michi added perceptively. If the Nine Tails and the remaining Sharingan users were captured, it would be catastrophic for Konoha. A heavy silence fell over the room. Naruto felt the familiar frustration rising. Once again, decisions about his life were being made based on what he contained, not who he was. No, he said firmly. All eyes turned to him. No, the Hokage repeated, eyebrows raised. We won't be locked away, Naruto clarified. The Uchiha compound is already defensible. We can strengthen it further. But we won't live as prisoners. This isn't a request, Naruto, Kakashi said gently. It's for your safety. It's for the village's convenience, Naruto countered. And it undermines everything we negotiated with the council. The Uchiha are supposed to be rebuilding, not being hidden away like a shameful secret. To his surprise, a small smile appeared beneath Kakashi's mask. That's what I told the council you'd say. The Hokage sighed. We expected resistance. There is an alternative, though it carries its own risks. What alternative? Izumi asked. You four form a specialized unit, the Hokage explained. Officially tasked with compound security, but actually preparing for the threat. You train together, develop coordinated defenses, and work directly with Anbu on intelligence gathering. In other words, Michi summarized. We become the bait in a trap. A well-protected, highly trained bait, Kakashi confirmed. Naruto looked at his three partners. Naori's eyes gleamed with intere. Saint. The prospect of returning to active duty clearly appealed to her. Michi's expression remained calculating, weighing risks and benefits. Izumi looked uncertain but resolute. We'll do it, Naruto decided. Don't speak for all of us. Naori said sharply. I agree with Naruto, Michi interjected. This option preserves our autonomy while acknowledging the threat. Izumi, Naruto asked, turning to her. She took a deep breath. If we're together, we can protect each other. I vote yes. Naori glanced between them, then nodded curtly. Fine, but I want my Jonin rank restored. If I'm fighting S-rank criminals, I won't do it with one hand tied behind my back. The Hokage considered this. Granted. Consider your demotion officially reversed. And I want full access to intelligence on these Akatsuki, Michi added. No filtered reports. Within reason, the Hokage agreed. Naruto stepped forward. And one more thing. This threat exists partly because of me, because of the Nine Tails. I need to learn to control its power better. I want specialized training. The Hokage's eyes narrowed. Jinchuriki training is complicated. Nevertheless, Naruto pressed, if I'm going to protect my family and my village, I need to master this power. For a moment, the old man looked at Naruto with an expression that seemed almost like recognition, as if seeing someone else in the boy's place. Then he nodded slowly. I'll arrange it, but understand that such training comes with risks. Everything worthwhile does, Naruto said, unconsciously echoing Naori's words from earlier. As they left the Hokage's office, an unexpected sense of unity hung between the four of them. They had made a decision together, as a unit, perhaps for the first time. This changes things, Michi observed as they walked through the village. How so? Izumi asked. We're no longer just a political arrangement. We're a tactical unit with a mission. Michi glanced at each of them. That requires a different level of commitment. And trust, Naruto added. Naori scoffed. Trust is earned in battle, not promised in meetings. Then I guess we'll have plenty of opportunities to earn it, Naruto replied with a determined smile. As they continued toward home, he caught Izumi studying him with a thoughtful expression. What, you're different today, she said. More centered. He considered this. Something had shifted during their meeting with the Hokage, a clarity of purpose, perhaps. For months, he'd been reacting to events beyond his control. Now, finally, he was making choices that would shape his own future. I'm tired of letting others decide who I am, he said simply. Nine Tails vessel, adopted Uchiha, political pawn. I'm all of those things, but they don't define me. What defines me are the people I choose to protect and the way I choose to live. Izumi's smile was warm with something that might have been pride. Even Naori gave him an appraising look that lacked her usual dismissiveness. Michi nodded as if confirming a hypothesis. For the first time since the massacre, Naruto felt like he was walking toward something, not just away from tragedy. Days stretched into weeks as their training intensified. The Uchiha compound transformed into a fortified operational base, with new seals and traps installed under Anbu supervision. What had once been a clan neighborhood became a carefully designed defensive position. With escape routes, safe rooms, and strategically placed weapons caches. Michi coordinated the security upgrades, her analytical mind finding vulnerabilities others missed. Naori oversaw combat training, driving all of them to their limits and beyond. Izumi, whose medical ninjutsu had been a hobby before the massacre, devoted herself to developing these skills further under Konoha Hospital's supervision. And Naruto split his time between team training and sessions with a special instructor the Hokage had assigned, a white-haired man named Jiraiya who claimed to be a Toa D sage, but behaved more like a perverted wanderer. Despite his eccentric personality, his knowledge of sealing techniques and Jinchuriki training proved invaluable. The key, Jiraiya explained during one grueling session, is to establish dominance without antagonism. The Nine Tails responds to emotion. Fear makes it fight you. Anger makes it manipulate you. But respect, mutual respect, creates harmony. Respect a demon that destroyed half our village. Naruto had asked skeptically. Jiraiya's usually jovial expression turned serious. The Nine Tails is more than just destruction, kid. It's a being of immense chakra, yes. But also of intelligence and pride. Treat it as a mindless monster, and that's what you'll get. Treat it as a potential partner, and, well, that's a different story. Ho's words echoed in Naruto's mind as he sat meditating in their garden, attempting to make contact with the fox sealed within him. After weeks of trying, he'd managed brief, hostile encounters in his mindscape, a massive cage. A pair of glaring red eyes, and conversations that consisted mainly of threats and growls. Today, though, he tried a different approach. In his mind, he stood before the cage not with fear or demand, but with an offering, respect. I know you can hear me, he said to the darkness beyond the bars. We've been forced together, neither of us by choice. But we're stuck with each other now. A low growl rumbled from the shadows. I'm not asking you to like me, Naruto continued. But this Akatsuki group is coming for both of us. They want to extract you, which would kill me. And who knows what they'd do with you afterward. Red eyes blinked open, narrowing at him. Why should I care if you die, brat? The Nine Tails voice reverberated through Naruto's mind, deep and ancient. Another prison is still a prison. Maybe, Naruto conceded, but at least here, you know the jailer. Out there, you'd be used as a weapon again, with no say at all. The massive fox shifted, moving closer to the bars. Its enormous face came into view, fangs gleaming in the dim light of Naruto's mindscape. You speak of respect, yet you use my power without permission. I'm learning, Naruto admitted. I don't understand this connection between us yet. But I'm trying. The fox studied him with ancient eyes that had witnessed centuries of human history. Your father imprisoned me here at the cost of his life. Your mother restrained me with chains of chakra. What makes you any different? Naruto froze. My father, my mother, you knew them. A cruel smile spread across the fox's muzzle. Of course I knew them. I was sealed within Kushina Uzumaki for decades before you. As for your father, the fox laughed, a sound like distant thunder. That's a secret they keep even from you, isn't it? Naruto's mind reeled. The Nine Tails had been sealed in his mother before him. Why had no one told him this? And his father, the fox knew who he was. Tell me, he demanded, his composure slipping. Tell me who my father was. Quote, bargaining now, are we? The Nine Tails seemed amused. What will you offer in exchange for this knowledge? Naruto hesitated, knowing he needed to tread carefully. I can't free you, but I can promise to treat you with the respect due to a being of your power. And, I can work toward giving you more freedom within the seal. The fox's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Bold promises from a child. I keep my promises, Naruto stated firmly. Always. The Nine Tails studied him for a long moment. Your father was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, the man W. Ho sealed me inside you at the cost of his own life. The words hit Naruto like a physical blow. The fourth Hokage, the hero of Konoha, whose stone face watched over the village. The man who had sacrificed himself to save everyone from the Nine Tails. That was his father. You're lying, Naruto whispered, but deep down, he knew it was true. It explained too much. Why the third had been so evasive about his parentage. Why Makoto looked at him sometimes with that mix of sadness and pride. I have no reason to lie, Kit. The fox settled onto its haunches, regarding him with something almost like curiosity. Your father was my enemy. But he was honorable in his way. He trusted you with my power when you were just an infant. Perhaps he saw something in you that I have yet to discover." Naruto struggled to process this revelation. All his life, he'd wondered about his parents, imagined who they might have been. Never had he suspected this. "Why didn't they tell me?" he asked, more to himself than to the fox. Politics, protection, fear. The Nine-Tails shrugged, an oddly human gesture from such a massive creature. Humans and their secrets. It changes nothing about our situation. But it changed everything for Naruto. His entire understanding of himself, his purpose, his place in the village, all shifted with this knowledge. The fox watched these emotions play across his face. "You came seeking partnership, yet you're distracted by human concerns." Naruto took a deep breath, forcing himself to refocus. The revelation about his father would need to be processed later. For now, he had a purpose here. "You're right," he acknowledged. "I came to talk about Akatsuki and how we can work together against them." The fox's tail swished thoughtfully. "These humans who hunt us, they seek to collect all the tailed beasts. Such power concentrated in human hands would be problematic." "Then help me stop them," Naruto urged. "Lend me your power when I need it, not as something I take, but as something you give." "And what do I gain from this arrangement?" Naruto thought carefully. "Respect, acknowledgement, and my promise that I'll work to improve your situation within this seal. I can't set you free, but I can make this prison less prison-like." The fox laughed again, but with less malice than before. "Bold indeed. Very well, Naruto Uzumaki, son of Minato Namikaze. When He's Akatsuki come, and they will come, I will lend you my power. Not because I care for you or your village, but because I have no desire to be extracted and used by humans with delusions of godhood." Relief washed through Naruto. "Thank you." The fox bared its teeth in what might have been a smile or a threat. "Don't thank me yet, Kit. This partnership, as you call it, will be tested in fire and blood. We'll see then if your resolve matches your words." With that, the connection began to fade, the massive cage dissolving as Naruto returned to consciousness. He opened his eyes to find himself still sitting in the garden. Though the position of the sun suggested hours had passed. And he wasn't alone. Izumi knelt nearby, watching him with concern. "Naruto, are you all right? You've been in a meditative state for nearly 5 hours." He blinked, adjusting to reality. "I was talking to the Nine-Tails." Alarm flashed across her face. "Is that safe?" "Probably not," he admitted. "But it was necessary." He hesitated, then added, "Izumi, did you know who my father was?" She stilled, her eyes widening slightly. "Who told you?" "The fox." Izumi sighed, settling more comfortably on the grass beside him. "Makoto made me promise not to tell you until you were older. She said it was for your protection." "So it's true. The fourth Hokage was my father." Izumi nodded. "Yes, your mother, Kushina, was Makoto's dear friend. When they died, she convinced Fugaku to take you in, not just because of the Nine-Tails, but because she had promised Kushina to look after you if anything happened to her." Naruto absorbed this, emotions churning. "Why keep it secret from me? Your father had many enemies outside the village. There was fear that if your parentage became known, you would become a target." She touched his hand gently. "And perhaps there was fear about how the village would react, knowing the fourth had sealed the Nine-Tails into his own son." It made a painful sort of sense. Still, the knowledge that he was the son of Konoha's greatest hero, a man whose face was literally carved into the mountain overlooking the village, left him reeling. "I need to talk to Makoto," he said, starting to rise. Azumi's hand on his arm stopped him. "She's away at a council meeting. And there's something else you should know." Her expression turned serious. "While you were meditating, we received intelligence from Anbu. There's been a sighting of Akatsuki members near the Fire Country border." The shock of his parentage was immediately overshadowed by this new threat. "How close?" 2 days' journey at shinobi speed. "Anbu is monitoring, but..." She hesitated. "But what?" "Michi thinks we have a leak. Information about our security measures and routines has somehow reached outside channels." Naruto's mind raced. "A spy, here in Konoha?" Izumi nodded grimly. "She's been analyzing communication patterns. Too many of our preparations have been countered too perfectly. Someone is feeding information to the enemy. Does Naori know? Yes. She's with Michi now, reviewing our security protocols. Naruto stood, offering Izumi his hand and pulling her to her feet. Then let's join them. If Akatsuki is coming, we need to be ready. Quote. As they hurried toward the house, Naruto felt the Nine-Tails' presence in the back of his mind, watchful, wary, but no longer entirely hostile. A tentative partnership had begun, just in time for its first test. The war room, as they'd come to call it, had once been the Uchiha clan meeting hall. Now, maps covered the walls, and a large table dominated the center. Scattered with reports and diagrams, Michi stood before one such map, marking positions with small flags, while Naori paced restlessly nearby. They both looked up as Naruto and Izumi entered. Finally, Naori said, "Did your fox nap go well?" Naruto ignored the barb. "Izumi told me about the Akatsuki sighting. And the possible spy." Michi nodded, gesturing them closer. "We've been tracking inconsistencies in information flow. Certain details about our defensive preparations have been compromised, specifically the rotation schedules of our Anbu guards and the locations of our emergency supplies." "How certain are you?" Naruto asked. 80%, Michi replied precisely. "The pattern is too consistent for coincidence." "Any suspects?" Izumi asked. Naori's expression darkened. "Several, including within Anbu itself." That was troubling. Anbu operated directly under the Hokage, but Naruto remembered Itachi's warning about Danzo, how the elder had ordered the massacre. If Danzo had influence within Anbu, what about Root? He asked. The three women stared at him. Danzo's secret faction within Anbu, he clarified. Itachi mentioned them the night of the massacre. Michi's eyes narrowed. "You never told us this." Quote, "I didn't know if it was important." Itachi said Danzo and the elders ordered him to eliminate the clan leadership to prevent the coup. Root was how he delivered those orders. That, Naori began, then stopped, processing the implications. That would explain a lot. If Danzo has his own agenda regarding the Uchiha, he might see Akatsuki as an opportunity rather than a threat. Michi finished, her analytical mind making connections. If we were eliminated or captured, the problem of the surviving Uchiha would be solved without him having to take direct action. The thought chilled Naruto. "But that's treason. Only if you get caught," Naori said grimly. "And men like Danzo rarely do." Izumi looked troubled. "We can't accuse a village elder of treason without proof." "Then we'll get proof," Naruto decided. "But first, we need to prepare for Akatsuki. If they're 2 days away, we don't have much time." Michi returned to the map. Based on their last known position, they could approach from any of these 3 directions. She indicated possible routes. "I've already adjusted our trap network to cover all approaches." "What about evacuation?" Izumi asked. "If they're truly S-rank missing nin, we should have a plan to get the children and elderly out." "Agreed," Naori said. "I've prepared 3 escape routes with Anbu I personally trust. And I've arranged a contingency with Kakashi-sensei," Naruto added. "If things get bad, he'll create a diversion while we retreat." They continued planning well into the night, adjusting defenses and contingencies. As midnight approached, Michi finally called for a break. "We should rest," she advised. "If they maintain their pace, we still have at least a day before they arrive." "I'll take first watch," Naori volunteered. "I'll join you," Naruto said. When she started to object, he added, "4 eyes are better than 2. And I'm too wired to sleep anyway." After Michi and Izumi retired, Naruto followed Naori to the roof of the main house, which offered a clear view of the compound and its approaches. They settled into watchful silence, scanning the darkness. "You've changed," Naori said abruptly after several minutes. Naruto glanced at her, surprised by the observation. "How so?" She kept her eyes on the perimeter as she spoke. "When this arrangement began, you were a child playing at being a leader. Now," she hesitated, "you're growing into the role." Coming from Naori, this was unprecedented praise. "Thanks, I think. Don't let it go to your head." A hint of her usual sharpness returned. "You still have a long way to go." Naruto smiled slightly. Always the taskmaster. They lapsed into silence again, but it felt different now, more comfortable, less strained. Finally, Naruto gathered the courage to ask something that had been on his mind. "Can I ask you something personal?" Naori's posture stiffened immediately. If you must, why did you agree to this marriage? Really, you could have refused, left the village, started over somewhere else. For a long moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. When she did, her voice was quieter than he'd ever heard it. Pride, she said simply. Not my own, but the Uchihas. We were once one of the founding clans of this village. To flee like criminals after what happened. She shook her head. I couldn't bear it. Better to rebuild from ashes than abandon our legacy entirely. Naruto nodded, understanding. And now, how do you feel about it now? Naori's dark eyes met his directly. Now I have a new mission. Protect what remains of my clan. Train the next generation, and ensure the Uchiha rise again. If being tied to you helps accomplish that, then so be it. It wasn't a declaration of affection, but from Naori, it was significant, an acknowledgement that their arrangement had purpose beyond political expediency. For what it's worth, Naruto said, I'm glad you're here. I wouldn't want to face what's coming without you. Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, perhaps, or a shadow of reluctant appreciation. Before she could respond, however, a small black shape detached itself from the darkness, landing silently on the roof beside them. A crow, with red eyes. Sharingan, Naori whispered, instantly alert. The crow regarded them with unnatural intelligence, then opened its beak. When it spoke, the voice that emerged sent chills down Naruto's spine. They come at dawn, said Itachi's voice from the crow's mouth. Two of them, Kisame Hoshigaki, formerly of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, and my partner in Akatsuki. They seek the Nine Tails, but will take Sharingan eyes as a secondary objective. Naruto stared at the bird in shock. Itachi, you're with Akatsuki. The crow tilted its head. Circumstances required infiltration. I cannot explain further. Be warned. They are stronger than you imagine. Do not engage directly. Delay. Evade. Wait for help. Why should we trust you? Naori demanded, her voice hard. You murdered our clan. Not all, the crow replied. Remember who I spared, and why. Protect them, Naori Uchiha. Protect my brother. With those words, the crow dissolved into a flurry of black feathers that scattered in the night wind. Naruto and Naori exchanged stunned looks. Was that actually him? Naruto asked. A shadow clone transformed into a crow, or possibly a summoning with a message imprint. Naori analyzed, her tactical mind engaging despite her evident shock. But yes, that was Itachi's chakra signature. I'd recognize it anywhere. He's warning us, Naruto realized. Working against Akatsuki from the inside. Naori's expression hardened. Or setting a trap. We can't trust him. But we can't ignore the warning either, Naruto countered. If Akatsuki is really coming at dawn, we need to prepare now. After a moment's hesitation, Naori nodded sharply. Wake the others. I'll alert our Anbu guards. As they moved to action, Naruto couldn't help wondering about Itachi's true motives. The man who had slaughtered most of his clan was now warning them of danger. The brother who had traumatized Sasuke was apparently working to protect him still. Nothing was as simple as it had first appeared. Dawn broke over Konoha in streaks of crimson and gold. The village stirred to life, civilians and shinobi beginning their daily routines, unaware of the danger approaching. Within the Uchiha compound, however, a tense readiness prevailed. Naruto stood on the main house roof beside his three partners, all fully armed and prepared for battle. Below, trusted Anbu guards had evacuated the few children and elderly to a secure shelter beneath the Hokage monument. Any sign? Naruto asked, scanning the village perimeter. Naori, her Sharingan active, shook her head. Nothing yet. They'll come, Michi said with certainty. Itachi's intelligence has proven accurate so far. The past hours had been a flurry of preparation. After receiving Itachi's warning, they had modified their defenses, creating multiple fallback positions and setting specialized traps designed to counter the abilities Itachi had attributed to the attackers. Izumi had insisted on reviewing emergency medical procedures with everyone. Kisame Hoshigaki is known for Samahata, a sword that consumes chakra, she'd explained while distributing soldier pills and medical supplies. If you're hit, use these immediately to replenish your reserves. Now they waited, the tension mounting with each passing minute. This is wrong, Naori said suddenly. They should have triggered our outer perimeter sensors by now. Naruto frowned. Unless they're not coming from outside. The implication hung heavy in the air. What if their enemies were already inside Konoha? The spy, Michi concluded grimly. They could have been smuggled in. As if summoned by their realization, a massive surge of chakra erupted from the direction of the village center. A column of water shot skyward, visible even from the compound. Water style in that volume. It's Kisame, Naori said, already moving. They're creating a diversion, or attacking the Hokage directly, Izumi suggested. To draw us out. Naruto made a split-second decision. Naori, Michi, go investigate. Stay together, don't engage directly. Izumi and I will secure the compound. The two women nodded sharply before vanishing in blurs of speed. You think they'll attack here while the others are gone, Izumi observed, activating her own Sharingan. It's what I would do, Naruto confirmed. Split our forces, then strike at our perceived vulnerability. They didn't have to wait long. Less than 5 minutes after Naori and Michi departed, a subtle disturbance in the air was their only warning before a figure appeared in the compound courtyard. Tall and imposing, he wore a black cloak decorated with red clouds. His face was concealed behind an orange spiral mask with a single eye hole, through which gleamed what appeared to be a Sharingan. Naruto Uzumaki. The man's deep voice carried easily across the distance. Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, an adopted son of the Uchiha. How convenient. Naruto stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Izumi. Who are you? A collector, the masked figure replied. I've come for what's inside you. Though I admit, finding you surrounded by Sharingan users is an unexpected bonus. Within Naruto, he felt the Nine Tails stir, its chakra bubbling with recognition and, was that fear? Be careful, Kit, the fox's voice echoed in his mind. This one, I know this chakra, it's the same as the night I was controlled and set loose upon your village. Naruto's eyes widened. This man had something to do with the attack that had killed his parents. You're not taking anything, Naruto stated firmly. Drawing on the fox's chakra, red energy began to swirl around him, responding more readily than ever before to his call. The masked man tilted his head. Interesting. You've developed some control over the beast. But it won't be enough. Naruto, Izumi whispered urgently. His chakra signature, it feels like an Uchiha. Perceptive, the intruder commented. But it makes no difference. You're both coming with me. He moved with blinding speed, directly toward them. Naruto prepared to counter, but what happened next defied comprehension. As he threw a chakra-enhanced punch, his fist passed straight through the masked man as if he were a ghost. What? Naruto gasped, off balance. The man solidified just long enough to grab Naruto's throat. The Nine Tails first, I think. Then we can discuss those lovely Sharingan eyes. Let him go, Izumi shouted, launching a fireball jutsu. The flames passed harmlessly through the masked figure, but he was forced to release Naruto to avoid a follow-up attack of chakra-infused Senbon. Naruto stumbled back, mind racing. He can become intangible somehow, he told Izumi. But he has to solidify to attack. Clever boy, the masked man mused. But observation won't save you. He advanced again, seemingly unbothered by their defensive positioning. Naruto and Izumi exchanged a quick glance. They had prepared for this possibility. Developing tactics specifically for enemies with unknown abilities. Pattern 3, Naruto said quietly. Izumi nodded, then launched into a complex genjutsu, her Sharingan spinning. At the same moment, Naruto created 5 shadow clones that encircled their opponent. The masked man paused. Genjutsu is useless against these eyes, girl. Is it? Izumi asked with unexpected confidence. While the man's attention was on Izumi, Naruto's clones attacked from all sides simultaneously. As expected, their physical attacks passed through him, but that wasn't their purpose. Each clone carried a special seal tag, designed by Naruto under Jiraiya's guidance, that emitted a burst of the Nine Tails chakra upon activation. The masked man noticed too late. What? The tags activated, creating a pentagon of red chakra that momentarily disrupted whatever technique made him intangible. In that instant of solidity, the real Naruto struck from below with a Rasengan, a technique Jiraiya had recently begun teaching him. The spiraling sphere of chakra connected with the man's chest, tearing through the black cloak and sending him flying backward into one of the compound walls. The impact cracked the stone, dust billowing outward. Got him, Naruto exulted. No, Izumi cautioned, her Sharingan fixed on the dust cloud. He's still. A chilling laugh interrupted her. The masked man emerged from the rubble. His cloak torn but his body apparently unharmed. Impressive, he acknowledged. Using the Nine Tails chakra to disrupt my jutsu. You've had good teachers. He brushed dust from his shoulder with casual contempt. But playtime is over. The air around him seemed to warp, and suddenly he was directly in front of Naruto again, moving with impossible speed. This time, his hand clamped onto Naruto's chest, directly over the seal that contained the Nine Tails. Now, let's see what you're hiding in there, the masked man said, his visible eye gleaming with malice. Naruto felt a horrifying pulling sensation, as if something essential was being torn from him. Within, the Nine Tails roared in rage and recognition. This technique, the fox snarled. He's trying to extract me partially, to weaken your seal. Pain unlike anything Naruto had experienced ripped through him. He screamed, unable to break free from the man's grip. Naruto! Izumi cried out, launching herself at his attacker. Without looking, the masked man caught her by the throat with his free hand. Patience, my dear, you'll get your turn. As darkness began to creep into the edges of Naruto's vision, a desperate idea formed. If this man could control the Nine Tails, then maybe. Fox. Naruto gasped internally. The partnership. Now, for a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, with a roar that echoed through Naruto's mindscape, the Nine Tails responded. Red chakra exploded outward, not in the usual wild surge but in a controlled, directed blast that targeted the masked man's hand. The intruder jerked back with a hiss of pain, releasing both Naruto and Izumi. Impossible, he muttered. The beast is helping you. Naruto dropped to one knee, gasping for breath, but the fox's chakra continued to swirl around him. More potent than ever yet somehow less wild, less corrosive. Together, Kit, the Nine Tails growled in his mind. This one is mine as much as yours. Drawing on this new, harmonized power, Naruto rose to his feet. Beside him, Izumi took a defensive stance, her own chakra merging with the red aura that surrounded them both. You're not the only one with partnerships, Naruto told the masked man. And mine is stronger than whatever control you think you have over the Nine Tails. Something like uncertainty flickered in the visible eye behind the mask. The man took a step back, reassessing. This is unexpected, he admitted. Perhaps I underestimated your connection to the fox. Before he could say more, a massive fireball crashed into the courtyard from above, followed by the arrival of Naori and Michi. Landing in defensive positions on either side of Naruto and Izumi. The village attack was a clone, Michi reported tersely. A diversion. We figured it out too late, Naori added. Her Sharingan fixed on the masked intruder. Who is this? An Uchiha, Izumi answered. Or someone with a stolen Sharingan. The masked man surveyed the four of them, now united in a defensive formation, and seemed to recalculate his odds. 4 against 1, he mused. And the Jinchuriki has more control than anticipated. Perhaps another approach is needed. You're not going anywhere, Naruto declared. The Nine Tails chakra forming a clawed hand that reached for their attacker. But the masked man simply stepped backward, his body beginning to warp and swirl around the eye hole of his mask. Another time, Naruto Uzumaki. He said, we'll meet again when you're ripe for harvesting. As they watched, his body twisted inward like water down a drain, vanishing into the single eye visible through his mask. In seconds, he was gone, leaving only disturbed dust and destroyed stonework as evidence of his presence. For a moment, no one moved, half expecting another attack. Then Naruto's knees buckled as the Nine Tails chakra receded. Izumi caught him before he could fall, supporting his weight with surprising strength. Are you all right? She asked, concern evident in her voice. Yeah, Naruto managed, though he felt drained in a way he never had before. The fox, it helped me. Protected me. Naori scanned the courtyard with her Sharingan. He's gone. Completely. That wasn't a body flicker technique, it was some kind of space-time ninjutsu. An Uchiha technique, Michi questioned. Not one I've ever seen, Naori admitted. And I've studied all our clan's recorded jutsu. Naruto straightened, regaining his balance though still leaning slightly on Izumi. He knew about the Nine Tails. The fox recognized him from the night of the attack on Konoha. This revelation stunned the others into momentary silence. You communicated with the Nine Tails during battle? Michi asked, her analytical mind seizing on this detail. More than that, Naruto explained. We worked together. It was different than before. Not just me drawing on its chakra, but actual cooperation. Azumi's hand remained supportively on his arm. That's how you broke his hold. I saw the chakra change, become more focused, more controlled. Naruto nodded. It's what Jiraiya-sensei has been teaching me, partnership rather than dominance. Convenient timing, Naori observed, though without her usual skepticism. They made their way to the house, alert for any sign of the masked man's return. Inside, Naruto sank gratefully onto a cushion while Izumi examined him for injuries. The diversion in the village, he asked, what happened? Water clones, Michi explained, accepting a cup of tea from Izumi. Powerful ones, created to look like Kisame Hoshigaki. They caused damage but disappeared when engaged by Anbu. A sophisticated feint, Naori added, pacing restlessly. It drew away half our forces, exactly as intended. And proved our leak is real, Michi concluded grimly. They knew precise when to strike and how our defenses were arranged. Naruto's thoughts returned to the masked man. Something about him had terrified even the Nine Tails. And he had a Sharingan. How was that possible? Itachi had spared only a handful of Uchiha, none of whom matched this mysterious attacker. We need to report this to the Hokage, Izumi said, finishing her examination of Naruto. This changes everything. Naruto caught her hand as she withdrew it. Are you okay? He had you by the throat. Surprise flickered across Izumi's face, followed by a gentle smile. I'm fine. Just some bruising. I'll heal it, he insisted. Channeling a small amount of the Nine Tails chakra, now remarkably responsive to his call, into his hand. The red energy glowed softly as he carefully placed his palm against her neck. Azumi's eyes widened as the chakra seeped into her skin, the bruises fading visibly. How did you? The fox's chakra has healing properties, Naruto explained. Jiraiya-sensei mentioned it, but this is the first time I've tried directing it specifically for healing. Michi observed this with keen interest. The implications are significant. If you can channel the Nine Tails chakra for healing as well as combat, it makes you even more valuable, Naori finished, her tone matter of fact rather than accusatory. And an even bigger target. Naruto released Izumi's now healed throat, suddenly aware of the intimacy of the gesture and the way the others were watching them. But something had shifted in the room, the dynamic between the four of them altered by the shared battle and this moment of care. We held our own against an S-rank opponent, Michi noted, bringing them back to tactical considerations. Our training is proving effective. Naori nodded reluctantly. The coordination was adequate. We need to develop more combined techniques, but the foundation is there. We protected each other, Izumi said simply. That's what matters most. Naruto looked at each of them, Michi with her sharp intelligence, Naori with her combat prowess, Izumi with her compassionate strength. For the first time, he saw them not as partners assigned by political necessity, but as a team forged in shared purpose and danger. This is just the beginning, he said quietly. They'll be back, and next time, they'll come in force. Then we'll be ready, Naori stated, a fierce determinati on in her eyes that Naruto had never seen directed toward him before. All of us, the others nodded, a silent pact forming between them. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The Hokage's expression grew increasingly grave as they reported the attack. Beside him, Jiraiya's usual jovial demeanor had vanished, replaced by intense focus as he listened to Naruto's description of the masked Akatsuki member. A space-time ninjutsu user with a Sharingan, the Toad Sage muttered. And he could control the Nine Tails. There's only one person that could be, but he's supposed to be dead. Who? Naruto asked. Jiraiya exchanged a glance with the Hokage before answering. Madara Uchiha, one of the founders of Konoha and the only Uchiha in history known to have controlled the Nine Tails. Impossible, Naori objected. Madara would be over 100 years old, if he were alive at all. And yet the abilities you've described match his precisely, the Hokage said heavily. This is most disturbing. Whether it's actually Madara or someone using similar techniques, the threat is immediate, Michi pointed out. They'll try again, likely with greater force. The Hokage nodded. Well, I'll increase security throughout the village. Anbu patrols will be doubled, with special attention to the Uchiha compound. That won't be enough if we have a traitor in our midst, Naruto said. The attack today proved our leak is real. Someone gave them our defense plans. Do you have evidence? The Hokage asked. Michi stepped forward, presenting a scroll containing her analysis. Circumstantial but compelling. Information available only to specific individuals has repeatedly reached our enemies. Jiraiya reviewed the document, his expression darkening. This points to someone high in the command structure. We believe it may be connected to Root, Naruto said carefully, watching the Hokage's reaction. A flicker of something, resignation, perhaps, or sad confirmation, passed across the old man's face. Danzo's faction has always operated with considerable autonomy. More than I've sometimes been comfortable with. You think Danzo himself is involved? Jiraiya asked sharply. I think, the Hokage said diplomatically, that Danzo's vision for Konoha's security has sometimes led him to take problematic actions. Naori's patience visibly frayed. With respect, Lord Hokage, we need more than diplomatic equivocation. If Danzo is working against us, against the village, he needs to be stopped. It's not that simple, the Hokage sighed. Danzo has powerful allies on the council. Without incontrovertible proof, moving against him could fracture Konoha's leadership at a time when unity is essential. Then we'll get proof, Naruto stated firmly. The Hokage studied him thoughtfully. You've changed, Naruto. There's a clarity in your purpose now that reminds me of your father. The reference to Minato hung in the air for a moment before the Hokage continued. Very well. Investigate your suspicions, but discreetly. Jiraiya will assist you. He looked at each of them in turn. In the meantime, continue your training and strengthen your defenses. If Akatsuki is targeting both the Nine Tails and the Sharingan, your household represents Konoha's most valuable, and vulnerable, asset. As they prepared to leave, the Hokage asked Naruto to remain behind briefly. Once the others had exited, he spoke in a lower voice. Jiraiya tells me you've made remarkable progress with controlling the Nine Tails chakra. Naruto nodded. It's different now, less like fighting for control and more like working together. Be careful, Naruto, the Hokage cautioned. The Nine Tails is ancient and cunning. Its cooperation may have ulterior motives. Maybe, Naruto acknowledged, but today, it saved me when it didn't have to. That counts for something. The old man studied him with weary eyes that had seen too much of the world's darkness. You have your mother's optimism. She, too, nd ways to work with the fox rather than simply constraining it. You knew my mother well? Naruto asked eagerly. A fond smile touched the Hokage's lips. Kushina Uzumaki was a force of nature, fiery, determined, and compassionate. When she set her mind to something, nothing could stand in her way. His expression grew wistful. She would be proud of you, Naruto. As would your father. The simple statement meant more to Naruto than the old man could know. All his life, he'd wondered about his parents, who they were, whether they would have loved him, what they might think of him now. To hear at they would be proud filled an aching void he'd carried since childhood. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The Hokage nodded. Now go. Your family is waiting. Family. The word resonated as Naruto rejoined the others outside. Not a traditional family by any means, but one forged through circumstance, choice, and now shared danger. As they walked back toward the compound together, he felt a growing certainty that whatever the future held, they would face it as one. Weeks passed with no further Akatsuki activity, but the respite brought little comfort. Everyone knew they were simply regrouping, planning their next move. The village remained on high alert, with increased patrols and security measures that transformed Konoha from a hidden village into what felt like an armed camp. Within the Uchiha compound, life took on a new rhythm. Training intensified, with each day divided between individual skill development and group combat exercises. Under Jiraiya's guidance, Naruto made significant progress with the Nine Tails, establishing a tentative rapport that allowed him to access more of its power without losing control. More surprising was the gradual shift in his relationships with Izumi, Naori, and Michi. The shared danger of the Akatsuki attack had broken down barriers, creating a foundation of trust that slowly developed into something deeper. Izumi, always the most approachable, began joining Naruto for evening walks around the compound, sharing stories of the Uchiha clan's history and her own childhood. Her gentle presence soothed the lingering anxiety that plagued him after the attack. Michi, true to her analytical nature, approached their relationship as a puzzle to be solved. She observed Naruto carefully, noting his habits and preferences, and adjusted her behavior accordingly, not to please him, but to establish optimal compatibility. It was oddly endearing in its methodical sincerity. Even Naori, the most resistant to their arrangement, found common ground with Naruto through training. Her initial contempt gave way to grudging respect as she witnessed his determination and growing skill. Their sparring sessions, once coldly professional, developed an almost playful competitiveness. On a rare evening when all four found themselves home with no pressing duties, they gathered in the garden for a simple meal under the stars. Lanterns cast a warm glow over the scene as they shared dishes Izumi had prepared with assistance from Naruto, whose cooking skills remained limited but enthusiastic. The surveillance rotation changes tomorrow, Michi noted, pouring tea. I've analyzed the new schedule for vulnerabilities. And, Naori prompted, there's a 7-minute gap during the pre-dawn shift change that could be exploited. She sipped her tea. I've designed a supplementary trap network to compensate. Naruto shook his head in amazement. You never stop working, do you? Security is ongoing, Michi replied matter-of-factly, though a small smile played at her lips. Besides, I find it satisfying. That's because you're strange, Naori teased, the barb lacking its usual edge. Izumi laughed softly. We're all strange in our own ways. It's what makes us compatible. The casual observation hung in the air, highlighting how far they'd come from the awkward political arrangement of months earlier. Something warm bloomed in Naruto's chest as he looked at the three women, no longer strangers bound by duty, but partners with growing bonds of genuine connection. I've been thinking, he said, setting down his cup, about what happens after. If we survive Akatsuki, defeat whoever's working against us from inside Konoha, what then? The question sobered the group. They had been so focused on immediate threats that the future beyond them remained largely undiscussed. The original agreement with the council was first to rebuild the Uchiha clan, Michi reminded them. That purpose remains unchanged, but how we do it is up to us, Naruto clarified. The political arrangement got us here, but what happens next should be our choice. Naori studied him with those penetrating eyes. What are you suggesting? Naruto took a deep breath. That whatever happens between us, all of us, from now on should be genuine. Not because of the council's decree or clan obligation, but because it's what we want. A weighted silence followed his words. This was dangerous territory, acknowledging the personal dimensions of their relationship beyond its political purpose. And what do you want, Naruto? Izumi asked quietly. He met each of their gazes in turn. I want us to be a real family, whatever form that takes. Not just allies against a common enemy, but people who choose to be together because we care about each other. He smiled self-consciously. I know it sounds simple, maybe even naive, but it's the truth. To his surprise, it was Naori who responded first. Not naive, she said, her usual sharpness softened. Honest. And honesty has been rare in our lives since the massacre. I've been analyzing our interactions, Michi added, characteristically analytical even in matters of the heart. The evidence suggests, we've already begun transitioning from an arrangement of convenience to a genuine unit. Our combat effectiveness has improved 43% since the Akatsuki attack, which indicates growing trust and intuitive understanding. Naruto blinked at the statistical approach to their relationship, but Izumi laughed warmly. What Michi means, she translated, is that we're becoming a real family already. It's happening naturally, day by day. Naruto felt a weight lift from his shoulders. So you all feel it too? Naori rolled her eyes, but there was affection beneath the gesture. Yes, idiot, though I'll deny saying so if you tell anyone. The moment was interrupted by a flicker of movement at the garden's edge, an Anbu operative appearing in a silent crouch. Uzumaki Uchiha household, the masked figure addressed them formally. Your presence is requested by the Hokage immediately. There's been an incident. The peaceful mood evaporated instantly as they exchanged alarmed glances. What incident? Michi demanded. Sasuke Uchiha has been attacked while returning from a mission, the Anbu reported. He's alive but injured, and there's more, his attacker was Itachi Uchiha. The name fell like a stone into still water, sending ripples of shock through the group. Itachi, who had warned them about Akatsuki. Itachi, who had slaughtered the clan yet spared those uninvolved in the coup. Itachi, who made Sasuke's revenge the center of his younger brother's existence. Where is Sasuke now? Naruto asked, already rising. Konoha Hospital, under guard. The Anbu straightened. The Hokage awaits your arrival. As they rushed to prepare, Naruto caught Izumi's arm. Are you okay? I know you and Itachi were. She shook her head, her expression pained but resolute. That was another life. Right now, Sasuke needs us. Naruto nodded, squeezing her hand briefly before they joined the others. Whatever game Itachi was playing, it had just become more dangerous, and more personal. The family they rebuilding now faced a direct challenge from the shadows of their shared past. The hospital corridor was eerily quiet, with Anbu guards stationed at regular intervals. Naruto and the others were led to a private room where Sasuke lay unconscious, his face pale against the white sheets. Medical equipment monitored his condition, the steady beeping of his heartbeat the only sound in the room. The Hokage stood by the window, his aged face grave in the harsh hospital lighting. Beside him, Jiraiya leaned against the wall, arms crossed. What happened? Naruto demanded, moving immediately to Sasuke's bedside. Physically, he'll recover, the Hokage said, answering the most urgent question first. The damage is primarily psychological. Itachi trapped him in a powerful genjutsu, the Tsukuyomi, of the Mangekyo Sharingan's most devastating techniques. Why? Izumi asked, her voice tight with emotion. Why target Sasuke now? Jiraiya straightened. That's what's interesting. According to Kakashi, who encountered Itachi briefly before being subjected to the same technique, he specifically asked about Naruto. When Sasuke intervened, Itachi seemed almost reluctant to engage him. Reluctant, Naori repeated incredulously. He put him in a coma. After Sasuke attacked him directly, the Hokage clarified. From the witness accounts, it appears Itachi was primarily searching for Naruto, not his brother. Naruto looked down at Sasuke's unconscious form, guilt washing over him. This is because of me. Because of the Nine Tails. It's because of Akatsuki, Jiraiya corrected firmly. Itachi is working with them. Whatever his personal motives might be. Michi, who had been silently analyzing the situation, spoke up. This contradicts his warning to us about the masked Akatsuki member. Why help us, then target Naruto? Unless it was a ruse, Naori suggested. Get us to lower our guard. Or he's playing a deeper game, the Hokage mused. Itachi Uchiha was always several moves ahead of everyone else. Naruto remembered the crow with Itachi's voice, warning them of danger. The contradiction between those actions and this attack troubled him deeply. How long will Sasuke be like this? He asked, returning to the immediate concern. Unknown, the Hokage admitted. Kakashi suffered from the same technique and has yet to regain consciousness. We've sent for Tsunade. Her medical expertise may help. Tsunade. Naruto looked to Jiraiya, your old teammate. Jiraiya nodded. The best medical ninja in the 5 nations. If anyone can help them, she can. A soft groan from the bed drew everyone's attention. Sasuke's eyelids fluttered, though he remained unconscious. He's fighting it, Izumi observed, moving to check his vital signs. Her medical training, though limited, advanced considerably in recent months. His chakra is trying to break the genjutsu's hold. Typical Sasuke, Naruto said with forced lightness. Too stubborn to stay down. No one smiled at the weak joke. The gravity of the situation weighing heavily on them all. There's more, the Hokage said after a moment. During the confrontation, Itachi was accompanied by Kisame Hoshigaki, confirming our intelligence about Akatsuki's partnership structure. But most concerning was what happened after they retreated. Which was, Michi prompted. They were pursued by an Anbu team that wasn't under my direct command. The Hokage said pointedly. A root team. The implications were immediate and alarming. Danzo sent his own people after Akatsuki, Naori concluded. Without authorization. Yes. They engaged despite explicit orders to track only, not confront. The Hokage's voice hardened. All 4 were killed, but not before one managed to return with troubling information. What information? Naruto asked, though he suspected he already knew. Itachi and Kisame were expecting them, Jiraiya answered. They specifically mentioned being informed of Root's involvement and tactical approach. Our spy, Michi stated flatly. It appears so, the Hokage confirmed. Someone with access to both standard Anbu and Root operational details. Danzo himself, Naori suggested. The Hokage shook his head. Unlikely. Whatever his faults, Danzo wouldn't sacrifice his own operatives so blatantly. More likely someone close to him who has access to his plans. Or someone manipulating both sides, Michi theorized. A third party with access to information from multiple sources. The possibility hung ominously in the air, adding another layer of complexity to an already tangled situation. What now? Naruto asked, looking from Sasuke's pale face to the Hokage. Now we accelerate our counterintelligence efforts, the old man replied. Jiraiya has devised a plan to identify our leak by fee. Ding controlled information through specific channels. And we continue preparing, Jiraiya added grimly. Akatsuki's appearance in the village means they're getting bolder. The next encounter won't be a reconnaissance mission, it will be a full extraction attempt. Naruto felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. The 9 tails within him stirred, its awareness of the danger matching his own. I want to stay with Sasuke, he said suddenly. At least for tonight. The Hokage nodded understanding. Of course, we've stationed Anbu guards, but your presence would be welcome, I'm sure. As the others prepared to leave, making arrangements for the compound's security in their absence, Naruto pulled Izumi aside. You don't have to go, he told her quietly. I know seeing Sasuke like this, after what Itachi did. It must be difficult for you. Izumi's dark eyes softened with gratitude at his perception. It is, but I'll come back in the morning with a change of clothes for you. She squeezed his hand. Take care of him, and yourself. After the others departed, Naruto settled into the chair beside Sasuke's bed, prepared for a long vigil. Despite their rivalry in Sasuke's increasingly distant behavior over the past year, the bond between them remained. More than cousins or clan members, they were brothers in all the ways that mattered. I'm here, Sasuke, he said softly to the unconscious form. And I'm not going anywhere. Hours passed in the quiet hospital room. Occasionally, medical ninja came to check Sasuke's condition, but mostly Naruto was left alone with his thoughts. The steady beeping of the heart monitor provided a hypnotic rhythm that nearly lulled him to sleep several times. It was well past midnight when a slight change in that rhythm jerked him fully awake. Sasuke's fingers twitched, his breathing pattern shifting. Sasuke. Naruto leaned forward, hope surging. Slowly, painfully, Sasuke's eyes opened, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they fixed on Naruto. You're awake, Naruto exclaimed with relief. Sasuke's voice, when it came, was hoarse with disuse. Itachi. He's gone, Naruto assured him. You're safe in Konoha Hospital. Sass. Yuke's face darkened with frustration and something deeper, shame, perhaps. I couldn't. He was too strong. He's an S-rank criminal, Naruto reminded him. Even Kakashi-sensei couldn't stand against him. This didn't seem to comfort Sasuke, whose hands clenched into fists atop the hospital blanket. He wasn't even